Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In my previous video, many players disagree that KATYA DAWNWING have an insane single target raw DPS compared to other main DPS. So in this video, I'm gonna prove that is real with an actual footage DPS calculation. Additionally, I will also explain why she is difficult to use in certain gameplay unlike Chrono Enigma, Series Kasana or Life for Infinite Psych. I will also discuss the correlation between KATYA DAWNWING and MARIAN RIPTIDE. So here is the footage I used to calculate KATYA's actual DPS. As you can see, the starting point is 1 million blah 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 and the timer begins counting the moment I activate her standard skill. So her crystal vein count will start from 0 just like in any other boss battle. In the first skill rotation, she fired 51 bullets and triggered 3 times Aurora Ray attack. In here, I have to use her ultimate skill early because I didn't want that thing to interrupt my skill rotation. And because time freeze during her ultimate skill animation, I also paused the timer until the animation done. Now, let's stop right here, because my third skill rotation was already interrupted by that annoying things, resulting in some misfired bullets. So the total attack contains 89 bullets, 6 ray attack and 1 ultimate skill. The final damage deal is 2,599,375 and it took 16 seconds and 12 frames to execute all the damage. So her actual DPS calculation will be: the total damage deal is 1,352,166 by deducting the final damage from the initial damage. The time required is 16.4 seconds. Then her DPS will be 82,449. Very high, isn't it? However, we can't directly use this number to compare with other main DPS because this boss has Frost Elemental weakness and my KATYA stat is very trash right now. But we can use this number to verify my DPS calculation. In my previous video, I already showed the raw DPS comparison between KATYA DAWNWING and other main DPS at the same manifestation and the same logistic stat, which is 14% attack percent talent and 11.8% elemental damage talent. Except for Series Kasana, I use the same HP grade talent, which is 14% HP percent because her damage is scaled with her HP. So we can assume that everyone has the same stat in this maximum DPS comparison. But despite that, KATYA's raw DPS is still the only one who skyrocketed in here. In order to prove her maximum single target DPS is indeed this high, not just theoretical, but also in actual footage, I will adjust the KATYA stat I used for this calculation to match with the KATYA stat I used in this footage, and see whether the DPS will also match or not. The KATYA stat I used when I create this footage is at manifestation 0, which means there is no attack percent increment from her manifestation. Her manifestation 2 effect can add 15% additional ray damage, so I just need to delete this one. And her manifestation 1 effect can allow her standard skill to ignore a certain percent of the enemy's defense, so without her manifestation 1, the enemy defense coefficient is 0.5. And of course, this one only affecting her standard skill attack damage. My KATYA also has 5% final damage, no additional weapon part. Her logistic talent is this, 20% attack percent talent, and 8.5% elemental damage talent. This annoying junk robot has 20% frost elemental weakness, and the weapon my KATYA use is tier 2 signature weapon. Since I consistently shoot at the boss non-weak spot to avoid dealing crit damage, then this DPS number is the one that we need to verify. As you can see, even her actual DPS is 3% higher than my calculation. This variation happened because when I calculate her DPS, I got two different results after trying this skill rotation. One completed in 25 seconds, while the other one in 24 seconds. Because her raw DPS is already very high and 25 seconds is more repeatable, I ends up using the 25 seconds even though she is capable of doing the skill rotation in 24 seconds. So what if I use the 24 seconds instead? Pretty close, isn't it? I hope this can prove that her raw single target DPS is indeed very high in both theoretically and in actual combat. All you need to do is use her skillfully. Achieving this level of DPS is also within your reach. But how to use her correctly? To put it simple, KATYA DAWNWING's gameplay is like the combination between Yao Winter Solstice and KATYA Blue Ball. Because she has a very high single target DPS where each of her attacks can deal very high damage but require a lot of preparation, so we can say she is a single target burst DPS that has a slow hit rate like Yao Winter Solstice. And because she is a skill DPS, even though skill attack cannot deal critical damage, they still able to produce a high DPS output. That means she doesn't need to consistently shoot at the enemy weak spot to deal significant damage, just like KATYA Blue Ball. Because she is a single target specialist, her capabilities when facing boss is indeed very good. However, just like other main DPS operative, not all kind of boss will suit her gameplay or her kit due to she has a slow preparation time and her total DPS is also dominated by her skill DPS. Also because she is a single target burst DPS that has slow hit rate, her capabilities when facing mobs unit in other gameplay, for example Paradoxical Labyrinth, are currently underwhelming. You probably already know how difficult it is to use Yao Winter Solstice in Paradoxical Labyrinth, right? KATYA DAWNWING can even more challenging than Yao Winter Solstice, due to KATYA's Aurora Ray has slower hit rate than Yao Winter Solstice fire rate. Not to mention that KATYA's DAWNWING hasn't had her special buff in Paradoxical Labyrinth. However, if you use her standard skill correctly, you can use KATYA easier than Yao Winter Solstice. Because unlike Yao, who only relies on her shooting damage, KATYA's standard skill also has AoE attack beside Aurora Ray that can deal a significant damage to nearby 5 enemies within the skill AoE every time you double tap the skill button. So the correct way to use her standard skill when facing mobs enemy is to spam her standard skill closely to the enemies to defeat as many weak enemies as possible. After you run out of standard skill charge, start shooting at the elite enemy so the available Crystal Vein will shoot the Aurora Ray to the elite enemy and defeat them. Additionally, KATYA can recover her standard skill charge when shooting at the enemy, so you can execute the next wave of AoE attack to clean up the remaining enemy. However, when you facing boss enemy, please don't ever use her standard skill too close to the boss, because that will sacrifice the Crystal Vein only to deal a slight amount of damage to the boss. If possible, always stay away from the boss location so you can deploy the Crystal Vein in peace and then shoot at the boss to trigger the Aurora Ray attack, dealing a significant damage to the boss. Also, always pay attention to your Crystal Vein number in order to maintain KATYA's DPS. When facing mobs or elite enemy at the same time, the Crystal Vein number doesn't really matter because you need to sacrifice the Crystal Vein in order to deal the AoE attack. However, when you facing boss enemy, never allow your Crystal Vein count to drop below 6 because that will significantly impact KATYA's DPS. So every time your Crystal Vein number falls below 6, you should stop shooting and redeploy the Crystal Vein again. Now let's talk about the synergy between KATYA DAWNWING and MARIAN Riptide. First of all, from these version promotional videos, you probably already noticed that using Marian's standard skill can reload a powerful bullet over here to her weapon, right? Causing her next shot to fire the powerful bullets in a straight line. Additionally, we can also notice that this powerful bullet gauge will auto-regenerate whenever Marian is off-field and when the active operative using their standard skill. And these powerful bullets can stack up to 4 stacks. Based on this information, we can already speculate that Marian Riptide need to frequently leave the field and require team up with any main DPS operative who like to spam their standard skill in order to quickly charging her powerful bullet gauge. Therefore, we can also speculate that Marian might come out as a quick swap sub DPS with additional abilities to buff full squad skill damage. In summary, besides KATYA Downwing, Marian might also be able to save other skilled DPS operative who like to spam their standard skills such as Haru Absconditus or Widya Agave. I think that's all for me. I will upload a new video that explains about her skill, manifestation, team compilation, and recommended boss. So please stay tuned. Thank you for watching, see you next time, cheers!